Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Diverse Goddess. It's Hannah. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about if you're a sensitive person, how it's actually a gift, and I'm going to be explaining intuition, so keep watching. So yeah, sensitivity. What do we usually think about when we think of sensitivity? We usually think about, oh, that person's weak, or, oh, I can't be sensitive because I'm not weak, so therefore I don't want to be sensitive. We usually have like a repellent kind of feeling towards it, right? Like, oh, sensitivity, like no one wants to be sensitive because we have been trained and conditioned to believe that it's weak. And I'm here to tell you, you've been lied to. Yes, you've been lied to. And you should be very upset about it, actually. And I'm here to re-educate you. And one of the reasons why we've been conditioned that it's seen as weak is because it's usually associated with a feminine quality. And so therefore, of course, everything that's feminine has to be weak, right? Well, no. First, they have told you that it is weak because it is actually the opposite. It is actually, if it's channeled correctly, it actually makes you very strong and powerful. And so they, society and our training and conditioning has been told that if you're sensitive, that it's weak because they actually want to weaken you. They want to tell you all the qualities that make you strong are actually a sign of weakness because they don't want you to be strong. The irony. Now, some people might be saying, well, yeah, being sensitive is a sign of weakness. Women are emotional. And let me explain something to you. There's a difference between being emotional and being sensitive. Women, or the feminine, was intended to be sensitive, not emotional. When a person becomes emotional, it's basically sensitivity gone wrong. Being emotional is actually a lower energy vibration, and it's actually when you try to fight against your feelings is when you become emotional. So, for example, when someone becomes emotional, they become angry, they become depressed, they become unbalanced. The reaction comes from a place of lack of awareness. It's to actually stop feeling. It's when you want to stop feeling and you start putting up blocks. Hence, the reaction is out of defense. So, when one is sensitive, it's when you become receptive. You're in a space of non-defense. You're in a space of awareness, and so therefore the need to lash out disappears. Now, they say women are more emotional than men. Really? I mean, what's more emotional than war? I'll wait. So being sensitive is actually really a gift, and the more sensitive a person is, the more they're able to tap into their intuition. And I've already explained in my other video that the female body acts as a portal because you're literally taking life from the other side and bringing it into this world, and so the female body is that vessel for that. So therefore, the female body is connected to the other side, and intuition comes more naturally to women because of this, hence the saying, women's intuition. I mean, some people think that that was just something coined by women, but there's actually a lot of truth to that, and there's a reason why we say women's intuition and not necessarily men's intuition, because the female body is directly connected to the other side. And the other way the woman is connected to the other side is that the woman's intuition comes directly from her womb center. And the power of the womb is very strong. So again, when you feel angry or worried or depressed, you feel it in your lower abdomen, which is the womb center. And psychologically speaking, a woman's stomach area is a womb. A man's stomach area, he has no womb. So the psychology of men and women are different because of that alone. For men, the quality of intuition is usually something that has to be more developed, but for women, it's inborn. So a woman, her intuition inside her womb is also where her eggs rest. And so what happens inside the womb? Life happens, right? And I've already said that women bring life from the other side into this world. And so the egg has the life force energy in it. And so woman's intuition comes directly from the womb and directly from the source itself. And the womb center is where a woman's sensitivity and intuition reside. Hence the saying, my gut feeling, because it literally comes from your gut, your womb center. And the woman's body, because it's more fragile, some people look at that as like, oh, because women are weaker, when actually a woman's fragility in her body actually makes her stronger, because again, women were designed to bring in life. We are the life givers. And so for our bodies have to be more delicate in nature, because the more delicate the form comes in, the more access you have to life force energy. For example, say you have a window, right? And you want the sun to come shining through, and that sun is the life force energy. And let's say you throw a very thick, dense curtain over that window. Can the light or can the sun shine through? Can the life force shine through? No, because it's so thick, it's so heavy, the mass is very great, right? Well, the same can be true if you have a very thin sheet, almost see-through, right? A see-through curtain. How much life force energy can come through, or how much of that sunlight can come through? A lot. And that's the same with the female body. Our bodies are designed to be connected to the source because we bring in life from the other side. Women are the life givers, and so we have to be more fragile in nature, but that fragility is our strength. It's our strength because we have access to life force energy. We were designed that way for a reason. And furthermore, women were designed to be more intuitive because, again, we are the ones that take care of the young, the children, the babies. And so we have to be able to be focused on a child, but also be in tune with danger, or to be in tune with whatever else might be coming our way. And men were more aligned with logic. And that's one of the reasons why we deem it as unimportant, because our world and our structure and our society has been built off of logic. And we've been trained to believe that logic has more weight than intuition or even sensitivity. And because our society has been structured more off of a male way of being and male qualities, we've deemed the intuition and sensitivities as being like, oh, you don't even need it. And it's usually because men don't understand it, you know, and people who come from a place of just logic, they don't understand the sensitivities of life, again, that emotional intelligence or the intuition of life. And so therefore, what people don't usually understand, they dismiss, right? And so logic is actually the seed of consciousness. And what do I mean by that? You have to have a starting point, right? And so I look at as logic as being the seed. It's needed because you have to start somewhere, but it has to be planted and then blossom, and that blossoming and that higher sense of consciousness is the blossoming of consciousness. It's the seed when it's come to its full potential. And just to give you an example of what I mean by logic being the seed of consciousness, this was many, many years ago. And like I said, I've been intuitive my whole life. And I just didn't know that that's what it was. And again, for me, it took me a long time to kind of accept it, even though I was always doing it and I always trusted it. But again, we live in a society that doesn't really support being intuitive and being sensitive, and a lot of people misunderstand it, and they tend to look at you as weird, or they cast you out, or you get ostracized in some way. But I've always been intuitive, and over the years I've just learned to accept it, and I've used it as my strength, and it's never failed me. It's only when I haven't listened to it has it failed me. And just an example, so many, many years ago, I think it was around 2008, so I decided to go on a camping trip, right? And I had bought a brand new tent. I bought it directly from the store, so it was brand new, right? Everything should have said this is brand new, so everything should be intact. And I remember I had a feeling in my gut that said, open the tent and take a look at it. But again, my logic kicked in and said, it's a brand new tent. Why do I need to open it? Why do I need to look at it? Logical, right? So I get to the campsite. I opened the tent, and then inside the tent, what did I see? There were missing nails, there was a broken rod. And so I should have listened to my higher consciousness. I should have listened to my intuition, my gut feeling. And so that is just an example how logic is the seed, and your higher consciousness is always correct. And just to break it down more simple, I mean, everyone has had this experience in their life, right? Some people will be like, oh, I knew that was going to happen, or I had a feeling that was going to happen, right? Or they'll be like, oh, I knew someone was going to call me. What do you think that is? That is your intuition. That is your higher source talking to you. A lot of people just write it off as, oh, it's just in my head. And so again, people don't know how to differentiate between what's just in their head and what is their intuition. And I would say when you clear away all the noise and all the drama going on in your head, then you can hear that intuition, because it's only when you're quiet in the head can you hear the voice of a higher consciousness. And I have explained before that I look at thoughts as like clouds, right? And so again, clouds, right? They block the sun. They block the light source. And so if you look at your thoughts as like clouds, right? You have to quiet that mind. You have to have those clouds dissipate in order for that light source to come through, in order for the higher consciousness to talk to you. And it always talks to you in a whisper. And so your first gut reaction, your first instinct, your first feeling is usually always the correct one. And again, we've been more trained to be more logical, again, being more aligned with the male way of being, which again, I equate to being a seed consciousness. And we have to kind of elevate as a humanity to a fully blossomed consciousness, which is the higher consciousness, which is the intuition, which is the sensitivities of life. And even in the book of Woman, Osho says, all that is intuitive is more available to women than to men. He has intellect, so he appreciates it, and he condemns intuition. He calls it blind faith, nonsense, stupidity, superstition. He condemns it because he has not got it. And again, women being intuitive naturally or sensitive naturally. Think of the old Princess and the Pea story, right? Everyone has heard that story, or if you haven't, it's a prince who's trying to find a princess, but he wants a princess who's so sensitive that she can feel a pea under a bunch of mattresses. So that's basically the story, right? He wants to find a real princess. And so logic in that story, right, would dictate that this woman would be crazy to feel a pea under a pile of mattresses, right? She has a pile of mattresses. Like, how is that logical, right? But the real woman, or the real princess in that story, she was able to feel that pea under a pile of mattresses because her sensitivity was so heightened, and she was so sensitive that she was able to feel that pea. And guess what? The pea was actually really there. So that's a story of intuition and sensitivity. And so again, just like my example of me going on my camping trip, my logic was wrong, right? And in the case of the princess and the pea, if she had gone with her logic and said, oh, there's no pea there when there really was, again, her logic was wrong. So again, the higher consciousness is always more correct. And so the more you can harness that and accept it, it's like anything. It's like building a muscle. The stronger it gets. And again, not everybody, intuition isn't 100% accurate for everybody, because again, we have so much stimuli happening to us throughout the day and throughout life that nobody can be 100% accurate. But the higher consciousness, the divine source, is absolutely always there and always available, and it's there for a reason. And as I've mentioned before, everybody has intuition to a degree, just like everyone can run. It's just some people can run faster, some people are more naturally athletes. So everybody has it and everyone can develop it. Again, some people have more blocks in the way, and some people have just kind of have been scared and don't even want to, dive into that realm or even be open to being sensitive and receptive and letting that life force talk through them, because that's really what it is. You're tapping in to the divine or the life source, if you want to call it God, spirit. That is what you're tapping into. But again, it's the body that feels, it's the body that gets the signals. And so for when you tap into that source, you're able to tap into your intuition you're able to tap into the truths of life. People have been taught, like I've said, to ignore this higher consciousness in replace of logic, because it's seen as a feminine quality, but it's actually more real than logic. And because men and their bodies are made differently, men usually receive things through the mind, through the head, but because the female mind and body are more receptive to a higher form of consciousness, life does not speak to women through the head. It speaks to women through the heart and through things that are felt, which is through the body. It's a silent language that only those who are truly sensitive and receptive are able to hear. And because man's energy is so centered in the head, and there's so much noise in the head, that the noise tends to get mistaken for the truth.
So quiet the noise in your head and listen to your intuition and embrace your sensitivity.
So on that note, I'm going to end this video, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Or if you have any stories about how your intuition or sensitivity was correct when your logic was wrong, I would love to hear those stories. Or if you'd like to stay more connected with me, please feel free to follow me on Instagram at Hannah Rokes, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!